Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. I'm Elizabeth Townsend-Guard, your host. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School. I also hold two fellowships right now, one at the Business School and one at the Newcomb Institute at Tulane. And I just want to quilt. So today we talk with Alan Puccinelli. He's making those big shield masks, and his story is amazing. It's big and huge and interesting, and we can't wait to chat with him.
My name is Alan Puccinelli. I'm calling from Rockland, California. I'm the founder of Operation Shields Up.
Awesome. And where's Rockland located in California?
It's in the greater Sacramento metro area, so it's a little bit north of Sacramento.
I grew up in San Jose and then was in LA for a long time, so but I didn't know that one. So that's great.
Yeah, I grew up in Cupertino, not too far from me. Family in San Jose still, Santa Clara.
Crazy. Yep. Yeah. Cool. Yes, that's so funny. So tell me what you're doing. Tell me what's going on, and sort of what were you before the whole mask, shields, and equipment crisis? What happened? What were you before this?
Sure. So I own a 3D printing accessory business called Repcord, and I sell the consumables that 3D printers use. So it looks like plastic, looks like weed whacker line, honestly, on a spool. And I sell that, and then some other accessories for like spool holders and parts for 3D printers and stuff like that.
And who's your typical customer? Like before this, tell me sort of what you were doing and what your life was like.
Typical customer was like a hobbyist, so people that are getting started in 3D printing, kind of on the hobby level, to maybe the prosumer level. I started the business 4 years ago kind of as a side hustle, and I've kind of evolved it to the point where I started fabricating my own products out of my garage. And then at the beginning of this year, I leased some co-working space in a local makerspace. And so I was doing a lot of my fabrication out of there. And then when this all happened and kind of orders started to slow down, I started transitioning over to making face shields for first responders.
So cool. So tell us about that. Tell us what you've been doing with that.
Yeah. So about a month ago now, I'm pretty big on social media in the 3D printing space. So Twitter, Facebook, all those groups and stuff like that. And I was kind of keeping an eye on what was happening in Europe. I have some friends over there that were kind of ahead of us a little bit in terms of trying to respond to the need for PPE, personal protective equipment. And a gentleman by the name of Joseph Prusa, he has one of the biggest 3D printer companies, like on the hobby level in the world. He started doing this face shield design, got it validated with their health ministry. And so rather than reinvent the wheel, I saw he was having good success with what he was doing. The demand was high. And so I made a couple here because he shared the design. So it's not my design at all that we've been doing. And then I made a few and I took them to some local ER doctors and basically said, is this useful to you guys? And it was like, oh my gosh, these are way better than what we normally have. Yes, we're experiencing a shortage. Like, how many can you make and how quickly? And so it started with just me making, I think, 14 or 15 on my first day to when I was in my little makerspace. Then like one other person was like, what are you doing? Can I help? That seems interesting. And then it was 2, 4, 10 of us. And we've grown to hundreds at this point in terms of all the different operations and the number of volunteers that have kind of come through the system.
And are they is it like decentralized? Are people doing this with their own 3D printers around the country, or sort of how do you have hundreds?
That's my favorite part of this, and it's probably like a lesser told part of the story, but we're like proving out this thing called like crowdsourced manufacturing right now, where people are using their 3D printers all over the world now, not just even the country, and they're sending me raw materials, and then we put it through our disinfection process that's per CDC standards for making sure that everything's as clean and sanitary as we can. So we don't want to obviously introduce new vectors by having a bunch of hands on all our stuff. So everything we get that comes in our door gets disinfected. And then we do all of our little kit and assembly. And we have 3 different locations now that we've been doing that so that we're decentralized.
Amazing.
Yes.
Now, is this funded? Sort of, are the hospitals paying for it? Like, what's the economics of what you're doing?
Right. So we are 100% donation based and volunteer organization. So we were lucky enough to partner with a local medical society when we first get started. So they are nonprofit and they've handled all of the donations and making sure people are getting their receipts and all that stuff. And then they also handle the distribution and the triage, which is a really big win for us because one, they have all the validation from hospitals and all those contacts, and two, it allows us to focus on making.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. Sorry. So that's okay. So you can stay focused on the manufacturing process and keeping it, but you don't have to deal with the So that's amazing. Like you must be really proud of this whole thing. This is incredible.
I'm very proud of the people that have allowed me to do. I'm built on the shoulder of giants here, so I'm very, very proud of being part of a bigger system that I keep saying, like, we don't have a making problem as much as we do a logistics problem. So doing this at scale requires all kinds of other organization and things.
So very cool.
We have a great team that's really enabled that.
So tell me about tell me the scale. So do you have metrics of sort of what you're doing at this point?
Yeah, so we've made, I think that the latest count was 16,500 and something last night. We do about 1,000 a day, so we'll be over 17,500 today.
And where do they get distributed? It's just California or everywhere? Where we have,
so we have only really been doing, for the most part, regional demand, although there have been a couple one-offs. Like we do have stuff in Ohio, New York City. I think some has been sent to the Comfort, that naval ship that's... so we kind of have our stuff has popped up everywhere. But for the most part, it's been regional to the Sacramento metro. It feels like we're just feeding a bottomless pit still of demand. That seems like it's starting to slow down. But the medical society still comes, takes everything that we can get. Also, the church that we're partnered with here does a lot of outreach for the underserved that are not necessarily medical focused. So that's really great. A lot of homeless and fire police, that kind of thing.
Right. It's interesting. It's such a mishmash of like medical people, family and friends that suddenly have somebody they know in a skilled nursing facility. Like it's so crazy how much need there is. And I imagine that you see that too. Your stuff is much more, we're just making regular masks, but I have one on, see this.
There's something about the shield that's like psychological to a lot of people, though. I have mine here, where I think a lot of people like feel like they want it or need it that may not, but at the same time, that's why the medical society has been so big on making sure that the ones that are in front of active patients
that's really great. Okay, so show it to me. Tell me what I know. This I'm going to describe. You can help me. Will you help me describe it? Because we're a podcast, so we usually
of course. So it consists. So this is the face shield that we're doing. It consists of four primary parts. There's a frame piece, and this is either 3D printed or now injection molded, which is way faster than 3D printing. There's a little, the main component is this lens. It's just a piece of plastic. It's the same stuff that a 2-liter bottle is made out of, polyethylene water bottle. And it's laser cut. And then there's a little clip that's also 3D printed at the bottom to kind of hold some shape and protect the side of your face. And then there's a little strap. Originally, the strap was elastic, but the feedback we were getting from the hospitals was that's not as ideal for disinfecting because they need to be able to wipe everything down with bleach. And so we just did kind of an adjustable strap style.
So it's plastic. So what does it look like when you put it on your head?
Yeah. So it looks like.
And then who is wearing a shield versus a mask? That's the question,
Sure. So,
and do they wear both? Do people wear both when they have it?
Yes, that's a great question. So yes, it's not designed to replace a mask. It's a supplement. And so because of the way that the virus obviously can infect, like protecting your eyes and your mucosal membranes is really important. And so having a shield, you'll see this certainly in ERs, ICUs, all of that stuff. One, it makes your mask last a lot longer because it's keeping particulate off of it, and it's protecting your eyes and your nose and stuff as well too.
And were these things that people were wearing before this? Like, is this a common thing that people wear?
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't have seen. So the place that I would say most people would probably be used to seeing it is if you go to the dentist. Like a lot of times, the hygienists and stuff are wearing these now, obviously to give themselves some protection. And so that's actually been a huge demand now as dental places starting to open back up again. They can't get these that they normally would, and so we're supplying them as well for emergency dental surgery. But in ERs and stuff, anytime there's an infectious disease or anything like that, it is an additional layer of protection that they would use.
So, but tell me a little bit about the social media side of what you're doing. So, how does that? What's the impact? Like as you said, you're big on social media. I want to know more about that part of it.
Right. So all of our shields, first of all, like we make sure that we put our little hashtag on here for our thing, and that's really awesome and a good morale booster. So as pictures of these pop up in the wild, people can see that and say, I was part of that movement. That helps drive our volunteer.
Remind me your hashtag. Tell me your hashtag.
Yeah, it's #op shields up. So it's OP shields up, and that's our website too, opshieldsup.org.
Yeah, there we go.
And so I'm a very big proponent of social media. Obviously, like the story is what drives our volunteer, our donation base and stuff like that. And so people being able to see the pictures out there and stuff like that are really critical to what we do.
And how much does a mask cost? Like how much, like on your side of it, how many masks can you make? If people are out there and they're like, I want to donate, like help them understand what that would be.
Sure. Our materials cost is roughly $3 a piece right now. So that's just materials. That's not, we're not trying to be mass fabricators and stuff. So there's no overhead included in that. But that's a good guideline for what it costs us for materials.
And you can donate on your website. And again, if people are listening, it's OP and then Shields spelled the normal way. So SHIELDS shieldsup.org.
That's right.
Shieldsup.org.
That's right. And we have donate links on there, and everything is tax deductible, and it's all nonprofit based. So it's all great.
Great. Well, this is very cool. How do you feel, because I'm curious, how do you feel about the homemade mask movement? So how do you feel that we're kind of like a sister organization in some way, right?
Yeah. I love it. In fact, I've been using one, and they're far more comfortable than these, general ones too. And honestly, paired with, we've been doing some of those ear saver designs. So I know you're wearing one that looks like it goes all the way behind your head, but the ones that like loop around your ears, obviously.
We have we've run out of elastic. We're just making our own bias tape now. So,
but I think that the untold story that I keep saying is like that there's a lot of value to what's happening here, just to give people a sense of purpose and a meaningful way to participate and contribute.
I agree.
And so anybody that's doing that, I praise them for doing that.
It's interesting. We're transitioning because we haven't been taking donations because we didn't need to, but it's just the need for masks keeps growing. And we've partnered with a great fabric company who's giving us they can't be making. They're probably losing money on sort of, but you still need. There's still cost to everything, and so we're starting to transition to that to keep helping our little New Orleans world, which is still struggling. So we're
I understand your challenge. Completely. It's tough. Like all of my volunteers now are starting to be like, not everybody can afford to just volunteer a month of their time, and so trying to find a way to retain a couple of core people. So we've started, allocating some donations. So we're doing a little bit of job creation too, which I think is also important.
That's right. And we see that with our crafters in the town, because we're all donating to artists and crafts who are selling masks, because we can donate our personal stash there, not the stuff we've gotten donated, and then it's helping them survive. So I think as it continues on, the model has to keep shifting, because it's really hard, it's just,
absolutely.
And it's not sustainable. I don't know about you, but I am exhausted. Like, it has been a very long, I don't even know how many weeks. And people don't realize it is a physical, emotional, psychological toll.
So much.
Plus adrenaline. Like, the adrenaline I imagine you're on is just like, it's craziness, yeah?
And adrenaline and caffeine. And I get these amazing, so because we're crowdsourcing our stuff from everywhere, people have been sending us just these most amazing notes. I got the best donation note the other day from a kid who literally said, I save a third of my allowance every, week. And he gave us the $150 that was a year's worth of his savings for this thing. And it was like the most heartwarming thing. And so that's what gives me, the adrenaline to keep going. And it's so awesome.
I totally agree. Yeah. And it's just, people, it's a hard time, but kindness really matters. Now, what about, I'm having struggle today. I just have to tell you, like, my struggle right now is that the not nice people are kind of moving in a little bit too close. And so do you feel like that's happened only this week? This is the first week where weird things keep happening. And I just think we're just at another phase. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about, like, you know, fake things out there, or people that want to profit off of you, or like people asking for too much, or like all this weirdness is happening. I don't know if you are experiencing that at all, or if you're being kept
so
from
much
that.
of it.
Really?
So much of it. That's the biggest challenge of what I do on the day-to-day, is trying to get to the bottom of what people's intentions are. I want to believe that most people are good and want to help. And a lot of times people do want to help, but they think they can do more than they can, and so they overpromise stuff, and then that actually hinders the process. And there are absolutely people trying to profiteer off of this, and so
interesting, right?
There's a whole exercise in psychology and being able to quickly vet the signal from the noise, as I like to say. Because
I was not prepared at all. Like, it really
I don't think
me.
I was either.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm so used up, like, from so many ways, like, personally, family, blah, 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 that stuff, I'm just like, all my like stress, I'm just ready to just like attack them, because it's just like, and that's not good. Like, I control my dragon. I'm like totally not about that. I'm not trying to but I just think like people got to back away just a little bit, like just like stop that.
I completely understand and agree with you. And I know it's hard, but stay with it. I'm in the same way. I've been at it for a month straight. I haven't gotten to see my kids much at all, because I've been sequestered for being, exposed to people that I'm handing these out to,
right,
which is really tough. So there's a ton of emotional roller coasters, but I hope you're getting enough of the victories and the wins and to keep that going, because it's really important work. And to me, I don't know about you, but if I didn't have it, I feel like I would go crazy. I can't be just at home sheltering.
No,
like, that's not in my person.
Yeah, and it's nice to be helped. I mean, like, we all should be pitching in whatever way we can. Like, if it's staying home and you can do that, or your amazing project. Let me ask you a couple. You don't know much about me. I'm an intellectual property professor. That's my job. So that's what I teach at Tulane. So I'm curious, when you talk about shared design, because what's so interesting about this mask thing is it is open. Are you doing open source? Or tell me a little bit about the intellectual property side of what you're doing.
Right. So you're the first person to ask me about IP. Open source is a huge part of what I do. I'm a firm believer in it. I'm a software developer prior to the Repboard stuff for 15 years. And so like I fully recognize that, that's enabled my livelihood.
Yeah. And explain so we're talking to quilters, so explain what open source is, so they have an understanding of what that means, and why something that's open is helping you with your livelihood, because people don't necessarily understand that part.
Yeah, no, open source is just an amazing thing. So it's basically like, and it can apply to anything. You see it, I think, historically in software development, where instead of, if you think of a closed source thing, that would be like on Microsoft. They write a bunch of code, and then they keep all of their coding secret, and they'll release a version of Windows, for example, and that's only ever managed by them. Whereas something like the Linux operating system, or a lot of the software that exists like out on your networking equipment, your routers and all that stuff, that is open source based, where I can write the code and I share my code with other people and they can improve upon it. Right. The rules of it, though, are that if you are going to use my code, you have to share back what you have developed on top of that. And it's like a we all win model. And so unfortunately, the capitalist society that we are part of, a lot of times people think they're so used to trying to keep everything close to their vest, right? It's mine, it's me. And thinking that if I share this stuff that I can't make money off of that. And that's actually not true at all. In the case of open source hardware, like what I do with the boxes that I make for 3D printing filament and stuff like that, I have a pretty specialized tool set and skill set that just, even with the plans, if I were to give somebody the plans to what I'm doing, it would be pretty difficult for them to make and to do it as inexpensively, or have to get the equipment, or they have to buy in bulk and stuff like that. So there are really great ways that you can open source your project, and you can get feedback, and I can then in turn choose if I want to make those improvements. So it's a great way to fund research and development. I think it's a fantastic model, and I'm a huge advocate. So in the case of the Shield, Joseph Prusa open sourced the whole thing, and he said, you are allowed to iterate on it. If you share back, you are not allowed to commercially sell it, but you are allowed to recoup any cost of materials and stuff, which is what we've been doing. Right. And we've actually made some improvements upon the design that we've shared back, where there's an additional visor piece to give a little protection to the top of the head. And so that's something that we expanded on the original design and shared back.
And how do you feel about, I think there's been some conversation in the patent area of making sure things that are invented at the moment aren't patented, that kind of like, or sharing patents. So the patent system locks things up, open sourcing keeps it open. And so do you have have you had conversations or thoughts about this in terms of making sure everything, because when it's open, everyone can use it. When it's patentable, you have to ask the patent. I mean, under patent, you have to ask the patent holder. And so I've seen some of these conversations happening about keeping these kinds of things open access as much as possible. Have you seen any of that? No.
Certainly. And unfortunately, there's people that try to abuse the system still too, and still try to take open source things and then try to profit on it or don't share back and all that stuff.
Yep.
But you know, at the end of the day, I think, I mean, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the nature of the question is. And
well, I'm just saying that, like, does your community worried about people coming in and like there's a sense of like protecting the sort of stuff that you're doing and making sure that no one comes in and tries to patent it. Now, the patent system's going to take care of it because you guys all just, I mean, like, there's lots of, it's hard to get a patent. There's a lot of things. If it's out there, you can't patent it because it's already been published. So, like, you know, there's lots of ways that it's going to be protected. But there is a movement of, like, you know, keep everything open as much as possible.
And my understanding, and you're probably way more familiar with this, but like if we're showing use of it prior to any of this other stuff, at that point, it's not really patentable. It's out in the world, it exists. Right. And my understanding is a patent is really only as good as if you have the resources to defend the patent.
You got it.
Stuff. So I'm a big advocate of being first to market with stuff over worrying about patenting and keep innovating because the minute you start resting on your laurels, like, I think you're not going to be able to adapt and change it.
Well, this is amazing. You're amazing. I love your stuff. I really do.
Thank you.
I'm super thrilled that you're here and talking. I was so psyched that you'll be willing to chat with us. Anything else to tell the quilters? Any the sewists out there?
No, my gosh, keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping as much. Like, the people are. There's much need, and I guarantee you that you know, it is great work both for keeping ourselves, like I said, giving ourselves a sense of purpose and helping others. Like, I think if we just keep focusing on the positive, the universe seems to bring good things back to us. So.
I love it. All right, hold on. Are you cool with us posting this interview?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, hold on a second. So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Gard. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.